Hi guys, Dingo here. You've come to a very special place this morning. You're here at my private reptile facility. Now you may or may not know me. I'm involved with working with a whole bunch of endangered animals. So we do rhinos, we do elephants, we do lions, crocodiles, you name it. But one of my biggest passions since I was 4 years old, reptiles. I love snakes, love crocodiles, love all kinds of reptiles. And today you're going to come and look at my facility at some of the animals that I've got here. Okay, when designing this room, there were a couple of things that were very, very important to me. So come along, let me show you some of this stuff. The first thing is you'll see on this over here is a big work surface. There's nothing worse than not having space in your room to do the things that you need to. So the other day, we had an issue with one of the king cobras. It's a 4-meter king cobra, one of the males, and we had to work with it. So we could put it laid right out here. Okay, it's a little bit longer than the work surface, because the work surface is just under 4 meters, but we laid it out, 4 people could hold it down, and I could work on it here totally safely. It's very difficult to do something like that when you're just working on the floor. The other thing is, because I'm dealing with bigger venomous animals, I want space. I would do the same if I had large constrictors. So I don't want to be standing in a tank here and having another tank right behind me. It's far too dangerous. So I've got a big gap here, a corridor that goes right the way around the room, and with that corridor it means that I'm safe. So if a snake comes out, I can retreat back or I can move sideways. I've never got clutter on my floor. I've never got things in the way. Come along over here, I'll show you a couple of other things. This here is still right in the beginning, but this is my bite board. This reminds me what can happen when you get bitten by a venomous snake. So I've been working with venomous snakes for 20 years, and it's very easy to become too comfortable around them, because most of the time they sit there and they don't do anything wrong. So what I do is I try to remind myself what's going to happen if I get bitten by these snakes. So this here is actually a picture of me back in ICU in 2003 when I got nailed by a black mamba. I almost lost my life that day. Fortunately, I haven't got other pictures of my own bites, but these are pictures of puff adder bites and gaboon adder bites that just remind me, if something like a gaboon adder gets hold of you, this is the best scenario that you can hope for. If something like a Bushmaster gets hold of you, I don't have those kind of death pictures here, if you know what I'm saying. But we've got some other issues in. But this just helps me keep alert, helps me focus, helps me to remind myself what can happen if things go wrong. So those tanks that you saw in the front are all 3-meter tanks, because those are made for king cobras and large vipers. But as you can see, I opened them up to make them 9 meters for the bigger kings. But if you come to the back here, now these are for some of my vipers. So here we're talking gaboon adders, we're talking smaller Bushmasters, we're talking those kind of animals that don't need as much space. Each of these tanks is 2.2 meters long, about 700 millimeters wide and about 700 millimeters high. So they're still decent sized tanks. But these snakes, they don't move or hang of a lot around, you know. So come a bit closer, let me show you one of our East African gaboon adders. Isn't she incredible? Now these are one of the snakes that helped me fall in love with snakes back in the day. One of my absolute favorites, and she's still a youngster. She's about 3.5 years old, 4 years old. Absolutely wonderful. Now what you'll find in a tank like this is there's obviously a hot spot on the left hand side. She loves the cool spots. So right on the far left, I've got a big hot spot there that she can hide under. The other option that she's got is this nice water bowl here. And I have to vary the size depending on the snake, depending on the time of the year and the humidity. So now it's midwinter. She's from the St. Lucia area, so it's a little bit drier there. So I've brought the humidity back a bit just for this winter period. She's still hanging out on the cool spot. So it's very important you're giving your snakes options. There's a temperature gradient between the two sides of the tanks. So that's the East African gaboon adder. This is one of my West African gaboon adders in here. Let me pull it out for you quickly. Now West African gaboon adders, they come from countries like Togo, throughout northwest Africa. They get a little bit bigger than our East African gaboon adders, but temperament-wise they're very similar, so very relaxed. Look at her. And she's still young as well. She's only about 3.5 years old. She's absolutely stunning. Now, the way you tell the difference, the easiest way to tell the difference between an East and a West African gaboon adder is very simple. Have a look over here. For this one, I'll sit still for a second. Look on the side of the mouth here. You've got one stripe going down the West African gaboon adder. You've got 2 down the East. So it's not really size, it's nothing else. It's the same snake, just slightly different. Sides on the side of the heads. The horns on the West African Gabooners generally also get a lot bigger than the East African. But they're both incredible animals, and I fell in love with these snakes when I was 4 years old. That's why I've still got them today. It's important to note, you need TOPS permits for East African Gaboon adders here in KwaZulu-Natal. So you can't just go get them out of the bush and keep them. West African Gaboon adders, you need other permits now because these are what they call alien animals or exotic animals out of South Africa. So these snakes here are all in 2 meter odd tanks, so 2.2 meter tanks, more than enough space for an adder. I don't keep them in racking systems. I'm not trying to criticize those that do, but I want to give them as much as we can like they have in the wild. So what I do now too is I've put a whole bunch of leaves in here around this time of the year. So from now till the end of the year, there's a thick mat of leaves in there. Makes it a little bit more dangerous for me because you can't always see the snake, but that's where they come from, coastal forests where it's just full of leaf litter. Very, very important. I try to follow what the climatic conditions of the wild exactly. So I know this season from this locality where this snake comes from, so this one comes from Togo. I know the humidity that's in Togo. I know the humidity that's up in Tlhluwi where our East African Gaboon adders come from. And I'm matching those. This, if you come a little bit closer, you'll see different thermostats. Every single tank's got its own day-night thermostat. It's because these snakes do not come from the same part in Africa. Yes, they're both Gaboon adders, but they live completely apart. They need to have their own climatic conditions, so temperature, humidity, everything else. It's not one shoe or one size fits all here. It's every single snake needs its conditions that are right for it.
And you don't make the enclosure appealing to you by keeping the leaves in there always, but making it better for the snake so they know like what season it is.
What I try to do in terms of the leaves is obviously in nature, summer there are very few leaves, winter there's a lot more because the trees drop them. Having said that, in the forested areas, some of them are evergreen. So I do change that slightly, but it's also because the leaves decompose during the year. So I put in fresh leaves. First I disinfect them, make sure I'm not bringing any other bugs in that aren't needed in this tank, like mites, things like that. And then I put them in there and I make sure that they're happy. And you'll find with Gabooners particularly, they'll bury straight under the leaves. So even when they're in this kind of soft, I've got very soft soil here that holds humidity well. So you'll see it's nice and soft, it's not dry. Because if you don't look after it, it comes dry. They love burying themselves right in here, and often you'll just have the head of the Gaboon adder out. You can hear that big puff too. She's a lovely snake, that snake. I've had her since she was a hatchling. Okay, what you can see now is it might look like I'm close to her and that she can get me. But with kings generally, what they'll do is they'll rush forward, but she won't come out of the tank because then obviously her body weight's going to take her down. What I want to do is show you the chevron marking at the back of her hood. Let me get a stick here. Come on, people. You look at the back of the hood there. Beautiful orange colour. And each king cobra's got a different marking at the back there. So you'll find the males, they're not as bright and as orange as that. And this is the section here where she loves building her nest. So she builds it right in the corner up against the bricks, and she's protected by these logs at the top here. Oh, and she's a good mom. Look at that already, she's defensive and there's not even any eggs in there. Let me show you her baby. Right, what I'm going to be showing you now is, first of all, I'm going to show you the baby from Delilah from last year. This was the very first king cobra ever bred in South Africa. Let me show you this little beautiful, and she's also a girl, and she's just like her mom, full of nonsense. Now she's only 9 months old, maybe even less than that. She's about 8 months old at the moment. There she comes. Come on, big girl. Have you ever seen anything so cute? You'll see when they're born, they're a beautiful black colour with some white stripes. And then as they get older, that colour disappears and she's going to end up yellow with white stripes eventually. So she's not at the very pretty stage of her life. But look at that hood. She knows exactly what she is. She's a king cobra. And with king cobras, you'll find they're not really aggressive, but they're very defensive. So you'll see lots of hood work, but not once has she tried to bite me. That's very common for king cobras. Look at that. Acting like she wants to bite. Mock, you see that's a mock bite there. But there's no fangs going in. She's spectacular. She can grow, can you believe she can grow right up? Females get to about 4.5 meters. And they'll live up to 25 years in her captivity if you look after them right. Okay, let's put her back. Then I want to show you some other king cobras we brought in. This is also a Malaysian king cobra. This one's a little bit older. But let me show you a Chinese bandit king cobra. So each locality looks slightly different. You'll notice I'm using these hex armor gloves. The gloves are perfectly safe with smaller snakes like this. You just need to make sure that the snake doesn't get up above the glove. Okay, as you can see, the Chinese Bandit King, totally different colorations. Also active. They don't get as big as the Malaysian or the Indonesian King Cobras. But in my opinion, they're just as pretty. And this one's got a very special hood marking. I'll show you some more in a moment. But look at that beautiful semicircle there, the top of the hood marking. Absolutely stunning snakes. Now in the wild, these snakes, they all eat other snakes. And the scientific name, Ophiophagus hanna, means snake eater. They also love being arboreal, that's part of their scientific name. But as you can see, although it's hooding, not once has it tried to bite. Snakes are not naturally aggressive, they are defensive. So what I'm doing here is I haven't hurt the snake in any way. So I'm gently letting it go through my hands, and that's when so many people make mistakes, is they let the snakes, they hold tight onto the snakes, they hurt the snakes. If the snake feels threatened, the only thing it can do is bite. So what I'm trying to do here is just allow the snake to go through my hands. Having said that, please, I've been working with King Cobras for the last 15 years. This is not something that I would advise doing, and I'll never advise doing it without gloves on. I think people who do that are pretty silly. A bite from this snake in South Africa means you're dead. There's no anti-venom for the snake. I'm highly allergic to cobra and mamba venom, so I'll go into anaphylactic shock very quickly. You have to treat these snakes with the utmost respect, and I only use these gloves for smaller snakes like this one here.
And what are localities?
So localities are the geographical region where the snake comes from. So king cobras occur throughout Southeast Asia. But a country like this one comes from China, the locality is where it actually comes from. So this one comes from China, you can see it's got different characteristics about it. So it's a different color. They also don't get as big. The major reason for that is that in China, it's not as warm year round as it is in a place like Malaysia. So in Malaysia, they're eating all year round, and they're metabolizing all year round. Whereas in China, they have a definite hibernation period where they stop eating, and it's a lot cooler. So you'll find that the king cobras from other localities where it's warm all year round, more tropical climate, they get a lot bigger. Totally different colors as well. All right, the next things I want to show you, as you can see down this corridor here, this is a slightly cooler side of the room, hence why I've got all my vipers here. Vipers don't generally like it too hot because they live on the forest floor and the leaf litters. And even though they might come from humid climates, it doesn't get too hot on the forest floor. It's quite damp and it's quite cool. So what we've got here is we've got Central American Bushmasters. These are my males, 2 of them. They form part of the only pairs of Bushmasters currently in South Africa. Incredibly dangerous snakes. So you have to be very careful. There's no anti-venom for them. And even people who get anti-venom after being bitten, you're looking at about an 80% fatality rate. So you have to be incredibly careful with these snakes. Make sure, if you want to come around this side, you'll be able to see it better. So this is one of our males here. Let me take out this other male rather. They want sleeping on the heating pad. This one here, and this is exactly what they do in the wild. You have to have hiding spots. So if you come over the top there with the selfie stick, you can see it lying there in the corner. Okay, so what you'll find is it's hiding right here under these leaves, because that's what they do in the wild. There we go. Now, what you have to be very careful from a Bushmaster is their strike. So even though this is quite a small snake, he's only a 3-year-old snake. They're the longest vipers in the world, and I'll show you one of the females in a moment. But it's their strike that you have to be so careful of. They can strike almost the full length of their body. It's not like a puff adder or a gaboon adder or something like that. Very, very dangerous, and I've seen people almost get bitten in the face before. So this here, Central American Bushmaster, he's very relaxed. Obviously captive bred. He was captive bred in Europe and imported here. Isn't he stunning? Look at that. He'll get up to 3.5 meters one day. And if we can manage to breed this species, it'll be the first time ever bred in South Africa as well. We're really trying to breed snakes like this that are very rare. So even in the Costa Rican jungles, survey kind of teams have gone there before to study them in the wild. And in 4 years of study, they found only 1 Bushmaster. That's how rare the snakes are. Let's put this over. He loves his cover. You can see if he gets irritated, his tail will start rattling too. Oh, he's very relaxed today. Now he's coming back in a strike position. You might not be able to see it with the camera, but this is when they're very dangerous. He'll come right out here, almost right out the tank to hit us from there. So let me show you one of the girls. You can see she's in a bigger tank. She's in the 3.2 meter tank. Come on, girlie. And these snakes are mainly nocturnal. So your best chance of handling them is as you grab them now. Come on, go. She's about a 6 meter old snake. Have a look at that, eh? Isn't she stunning? Listen to her tail here. You see her tail rattling in my hand there. That's her warning, like a rattlesnake does, except she doesn't have a rattle. She doesn't need a rattle because she makes a rattlesnake look like a house snake. The longest vipers in the world, Bushmasters, and you get 3 or 4 different subspecies of Bushmasters. These are the Central American Bushmasters, the Lechusa stenophrys. Beautiful snakes, but incredibly dangerous. You have to be very careful when working with them.